The extreme drought that's blamed for decimating crops across the U.S. is also blamed for driving the Mississippi River way down. That, in turn, is causing salt water to mix with the rivers and Louisiana's drinking water. What's going on here, Chad? How can salt water get into the drinking water?
The Mississippi River has actually been flowing the wrong way underground. You know, salt water is very heavy. That's why you float better in the ocean. So down below the fresh water that is the river that you can see, there's a layer of salt water running the wrong way up the river, 90 miles up the river, almost to New Orleans, but not quite. So what the Army Corps of Engineers is going to do, they're going to put a bump. They're going to put a dirt berm under the water, not all the way to the top, because they still have to get boats over the top. But they're going to put a dirt berm there to stop that water from going up the river. How they're going to do that? They're going to take the river. Now, we understand the river is going this way. This would be New Orleans, and here would be the Gulf of Mexico. And the salt water is coming along the bottom, below, almost like two layers, like oil. When you get a bottle of Italian dressing, you got the oil on top and the vinegar on the bottom. Well, here's the vinegar. It's the salt water going the wrong way. Here's the oil. It's the water. There's just not enough of the water to push the salt water back. And that salt water is now getting into the intake of the Plaquemines Parish water system. So it's sucking in salt water, so there's a little bit of salt in the drinking water. Now, they're going to fix that by taking some barges full of real fresh water and taking it down to Plaquemines Parish. But the big fix is making this dirt berm so that the salt water can't go up the river.
Water encroaching Mississippi River, threatening New Orleans drinking water. Bobby Jindal, on Wednesday, he's the governor, declared a state of emergency for Plaquemines Parish as it deals with encroaching salt water threatening its drinking water. And let me tell you, the Mississippi River, they say it's the lowest that they've ever seen it in generations, and this is something they're definitely going to have to deal with. The Mississippi is the lifeblood of the Midwest, basically the center of the country. It kind of divides the east from the west. You know, we all know people west from the Mississippi and east from the Mississippi. That's how we kind of delineate who we are as Americans by that river. And if it were to dry up, it would cause a lot of havoc in terms of shipping, in terms of energy, in terms of silt. It brings a lot of silt down through, and basically when it does flood, or when it used to flood, it used to make those areas around the Mississippi very fertile, which is why in Louisiana you can grow a lot of crops over and over again, because they have very high quality soil, and that's all due to the Mississippi River. So let's hope that they start to look at this problem seriously and maybe develop some plans to create locks and reservoirs and different channels that we can save water in the flood times and then disperse it in these dry times.
Maya Rodriguez, who got caught in one of those storms in Belle Chase, joins us now from Belle Chase on the telephone with what the parish is doing to combat the problem. Maya?
Well, hey, Mike, you know that salt water from the Gulf is coming up the river and getting closer to the water intakes here. Now, to make sure the parish has enough drinking water, several things are happening. One thing, Plaquemines Parish says it's talking to Jefferson Parish about accessing water from JP through a 12-inch pipeline that is already in place. Plaquemines Parish is also working now with New Orleans on plans to begin construction on an 8-inch pipeline to New Orleans that would run about 1,000 feet, also to try to bring water in. Now, both of those pipelines could provide water to the Belle Chase area, but for points in the lower end of the parish, a barge will need to be used to transport water to an intake in Port Sulphur and another on the east bank of Plaquemines Parish. Now, the parish has had this saltwater problem in the past, both in 1988 and in 1999. Here's what Plaquemines Parish President Billy Nungesser has to say about the latest situation.
There's no need to panic. We're not going to run out of water. We'll make sure we get this in place before we have to, before the levels get too high. Right now, we're mixing the Port Sulphur water with water we're piping down from Belle Chase to keep those levels low enough to where it's not affecting the public. But at some point, we will ask them to conserve water.
Now, the leading edge of the saltwater right now is approaching Belle Chase. In the meantime, the Army Corps of Engineers says bids are due today to build an underwater sill in the river to try to block the saltwater from coming up. We'll have much more on this story coming up in our later newscast. In Belle Chase, Maya Rodriguez, Channel 4 Eyewitness News. Mike?
All right. Thank you, Maya.